One of the most effective tools that we can use in relationships is boundaries. So today we're going to talk about how to use boundaries in relationships to keep ourselves safe and to create healthy relationships. Today we're going to talk about boundaries and how we can use boundaries in relationships to keep us safe and to improve our relationships. So to begin with, first we need to talk about what boundaries are, because oftentimes there's a misconception about boundaries. We think that we're setting boundaries when we tell other people what to do or what not to do, or what they can do or what they can't do. That's not a boundary. That's us trying to control somebody else. And we can't control anybody else. So we can't make someone else do or not do something else. The only thing that we have control over is ourselves. And so a boundary is something that we set or establish that we will do or not do, dependent upon what the other person does. So we recognize that everybody has the ability to make their own choices and to behave in whatever way they want to behave. However, there are consequences for every choice that we make. And so a boundary that we put in place is actually a consequence to help the other person look at their behavior and determine whether or not it's working for them or not. So two things that we're going to talk about. The first is how to use boundaries to keep ourselves safe. And an example would be allowing other people to manipulate us or to use us. I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I had loaned some money to a family member with the understanding that that person would pay the money back to me. And as it turns out, I never got that money paid back to me. Now I could go into that victim mindset and be angry and upset at the person that I loaned the money to, and I could hold that against them for the rest of our relationship. But the truth is, I loaned that money to that person knowing who that person was. Now I may have believed that person would pay me back, but it was my choice. And so I did that. And so by not getting paid back, that's a consequence for my actions. And if I look at myself, I can say, well, why did I do that? Was that money that I could live without? So if I'm loaning it, am I making sure that I'm doing that to somebody that I know that the money is going to come back from? Or am I putting something in place to guarantee that money? I didn't do any of those things. So the decision that I made to loan the money was all about me. And so if I focus on me, I can learn something from that experience. And in the future, when this person came to me and asked to borrow money from me again, in one situation, I was willing to do that. But I put different conditions in place or boundaries. So in that situation, I made sure that there were other people involved, not just this one individual. And we were more specific about what the expectations would be. And with those boundaries in place, I got my money back. There was another situation where the same individual asked for some money under a different condition. And based on that, I was not willing to loan the money. So again, that would be a boundary. Somebody asks you for money, and because of what I know about that person, now I'm not trying to change them, I'm not trying to control them, I'm just focusing on me, and I'm making a decision that, no, I won't loan you the money. That boundary is in place to keep me safe, to keep me from losing money that I don't want to lose. We can do the same thing in a lot of different settings or situations. So let's say somebody invites us to go with them to do something, and we know that that person maybe is kind of impulsive. They don't always use the best judgment, that they often find themselves in kind of difficult predicaments. Well, we can set a boundary and just say, no, I'm not going to go to this place with you. I'll hang out with you, but we'll do it in this setting. Now, again, I'm not trying to control them. I'm just setting a boundary. I'm saying, yeah, I'd like to hang out with you, but I'll hang out with you here, not here. Or doing this event, not doing this event. So those are ways in which we can use boundaries to keep ourselves safe. We look at what we know about the other person. We make decisions and choices on what we're comfortable with and with things over which we have control. And then we just set that boundary with them. Oftentimes, that's difficult to do because we're afraid of hurting their feelings. We're afraid of offending them. We're afraid that they may get angry or upset at us. What we need to understand is that we don't have any control over those things. So those are false beliefs. We don't have control over whether another person is angry with us. We don't have control over whether another person chooses to have hurt feelings. All we can do is have control over us, and we need to make decisions and choices that are in our self-interest and not worry so much about how the other person is going to feel as a result of that. So that's the example of setting boundaries in relationships to keep us safe. So the other way in which we can use boundaries in relationships is just in the emotional part of a relationship. To realize that each one of us are responsible for our own thoughts, our own emotions, and that nobody can hurt our feelings. Nobody can make us mad. We can't make another person mad or upset. They're responsible for themselves. We're responsible for ourselves. So once we take responsibility for our own happiness and our own emotions, then when we're in a situation where we feel like somebody is trying to manipulate us, so they're asking us to do something that we don't want to do, they're trying to make us feel guilty for not doing something that they want us to do, that's a good time to be able to set a boundary and to realize that I don't have control over that other person and they don't have control over me. I'm going to make the decision and choice that I know is in my best interest, that I feel most comfortable doing, and I'm going to allow the other person to experience whatever emotion they want to experience as a result of that. Most of the time when individuals use anger or guilt tripping or any of those kinds of things, that's an attempt on their part to control us. And when we give in to that, then oftentimes afterwards, when things don't go the way that we want, or they turned out like we knew they were going to turn out, so they turn out bad, we then build resentment towards that person. And then that relationship has a negative effect to that, because now I'm angry at that person for what they did to me, when in truth, they didn't do anything to me. It was the choices that I made. I allowed them to manipulate me because I wasn't strong enough or confident enough in myself to set a boundary, to hold true to what I knew to be in my best interest, and allow them to play whatever games that they're going to play. If they want to be upset, I'm going to allow them and respect their right to be upset, but I'm not going to take accountability for it. If they try to guilt trip me or to make me feel bad for something, I'm going to recognize that I don't need to feel bad unless I want to feel bad. And why would I want to feel bad? So I'm going to allow them, again, to be responsible for themselves, and I'm going to take care of me. If I do that, there isn't going to be the resentment that will come up later and push the relationship apart. And so what will happen as I set healthy boundaries in relationships, this person is either going to respect my boundaries and our relationship will become healthier and stronger, or if I set a healthy boundary, the other person may not like it, and so then may choose, if I hold those boundaries, that person may choose that they don't want to be friends or to hang out with me anymore. They would rather find somebody else that they can manipulate and that they can use to make them feel better in their own life, because they haven't yet learned how to take responsibility for their own emotions. So being able to set healthy boundaries helps us create relationships that are emotionally healthy, because each one of us is taking responsibility for ourselves and our emotions. And if the other person doesn't want to do that, then they're not going to feel comfortable being around us, and they will find somebody else to spend time with. Thanks for watching again today. So if you found today's video helpful, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Be a part of what we're doing and continue to make a difference in your life.